Wait for WinCam to start. Good evening. Let's try again. Good evening. Welcome. This is the Winchester Select Board meeting. This is a regular meeting. Today is Monday, July 9th. I'm Lance Grensback. I serve as chair. With me tonight are my colleagues Jacqueline Welsh, Mike Betancourt, and Mariano Golubov, our town manager Richard Howard, and our administrative assistants. Let me just talk very briefly through the agenda. We'll talk about the notification of meetings, and we'll have comments by the chair and members then, but we'll have the town manager's reports, which are mostly a set of appointments to positions. We have a hearing, two traffic hearings starting at 8:15, and if we have time between then and now, we'll take up, we have interns from Saint-Germain-en-Laye here to introduce, and then a series of other committee appointments and reappointments. I know that several of you are in here to talk about the potential solar panels contract, and I expect we'll want to take a little bit more time on that. If we have a lot of time before 8:15, we'll start that, but I anticipate that we'll get to that after the hearings on the traffic issues. So if you desperately need coffee, you still have time to go get that before we start on that. And then we have several items on the consent agenda to be taken up later this evening. So. Okay, so our next, back to the things, the next meetings, we will hold a meeting tomorrow evening, July 10th. The select board and the planning board are going to sit down and basically have a working meeting. It's not a vote or decision meeting, but to take a look at all the projects that are going on in the town center area, and in particular to focus on what we might be doing with the Waterfield block over the next few years. We've been talking for some years about putting out a request for proposals that developers could bid on to redevelop some of the space that's now used for parking in that area. So we're going to do some discussions and hear from some of the consultants who've been working on that. The next regularly scheduled meeting of the planning board is on July 23rd, and at that point, if it's still nice and warm, you're welcome to come here and, acclimate yourself to the air conditioning in this room. One of the issues for the board to take up later this evening, when we have our calendars out, is dates for August. We've probably picked two out of the four dates, 16, 13, 20, or 27. So would you remind me sort of toward the end of the meeting that we need to pick dates there? Okay, with that, any comments from board members? News,
Nothing
events,
right now.
And things like that? Jackie, anything?
I think that it's a beautiful time to be in Winchester because it's been great summer weather and the town's looking absolutely gorgeous with all the leaves out and all the kids out.
The restaurants are wide open, and
Exactly.
Mr. Lord would going to volunteer. We have discount coupons at all the restaurants on
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, okay, good.
Yep.
It's a great time to be in Winchester.
Okay. Mariano, any comments, notes?
No comments.
Okay. So let me turn to then the town manager's reports. Mr. Howard?
Thank you, Lance. So the paperwork in the packet, hopefully very straightforward. There is one late-breaking appointment memo that we added to your agenda this evening as well. But to take them in order, we have two appointments at the DPW, fairly straightforward additions, one internal and one an external candidate. The DPW is asking that we waive the typical 15-day periods on these employees so that they can get right to work. So
Okay.
on
both of them, or just?
On both of them, we could use a vote to the effect that there's a waiver of the review period.
Okay, so this is for Mr. Mira and Mr. Rowley?
Mr. Mira, Mr. Rowley.
Chairman, I move that we waive the 15-day appointment period for Timothy Mira, 46 State Street, Tewksbury, for DPW W12 Step 1, and for Anthony Rowley. Does that require also?
Yes.
Anthony Rowley of 9 Island Court, Woburn, DPW W13 Step 4.
Okay, do we have seconds? Seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nays. Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And under C, we have two appointments within our own management staff. As we all know, although Patty is right behind us here this evening, with the other Patty, Patty Mon has retired and has moved on to a great retirement plan. And we're adding 2 new staffers after a period of interviews, Patricia Mihalik and Mahalich, and Amanda Taddeo. Patricia's here, and we're asking and she's moving from the DPW to the manager's office, DPW front office to the manager's office. So we're asking for the same vote so that Patty can start right away. Amanda, we didn't note it for a vote, but
She falls out of the,
but I think, you know, if you wouldn't mind, I'm gonna ask the same consideration. Here's the reason why. I think she wants to give notice to her employer. And if we waited 15 days and then she gave another 2-week notice, we wouldn't
That'd be
have her
even
starting
later.
on time. So,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we waive the 15-day appointment period for Ms. Patricia Mihalchik and for Amanda Tadeo for the town manager's office.
Second.
Okay, second,
and we're glad to have them joining the staff.
yeah, did I hear a second? I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking.
Yeah, second,
Okay,
yep.
seconded. Any further questions? Otherwise, all in favor, please say aye.
I,
Opposed, nays, ayes have it. And you want to both of you want to stand up and take a bow for us?
There you go.
This would be the best. We just have to learn the difference between Patty with an I and Patty with a Y, but they're both extremely competent people, so we're going to be in good shape. There was a period there where the board was in fear that we might lose somebody competent like the Pattys and wouldn't know what we were doing, but I think that's been cured, so, good, okay?
Under B1D, again, an internal item that we've done. So Susan Clark will now kind of move from the Winchester Senior Association side of the house to the Council on Aging side of the house. She will come in as a temporary part-time employee, and her services as the transportation director are supported by a grant from the Cummings Foundation that the Council on Aging has been able to acquire on an annual basis. So we have one last allotment, which is also the subject of one of your G business items, which is the acceptance of that gift, so that we can put it towards the services that Susan provides under the Council on Aging. But she will be added to their roster rather than sitting under the WSA kind of side of the house over at the Jenks. So, again, same kind of, she's already doing the work. We ask the same vote to waive the 15 days and appoint her as the temporary part-time.
Chairman, I move that we waive the 15-day appointment period for Susan Clark for the Council on Aging office.
Second.
Further questions? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
I,
Opposed, nays, ayes have it, thank you.
The other one that came in under E is the documentation that Patty gave you at table here. This is for an appointment of Kylie Burke. So as you know, Joanne Taft moved from the administrative assistant within the HR department, has accepted the position as the assistant town clerk. She's working out fine down there. So this fills that vacancy. A long list of interviews that Michelle went through. So we're recommending that Ms. Burke be approved and be voted as well to be able to start right away. Michelle's been without a second set of hands up there for quite a few weeks since Joanne has made the transition down into the clerk's office. So we're glad to have Kylie come on board. We actually interviewed Kylie as part of our interview process for the town manager's office vacancies, and that's how we kind of came across the resume. And Michelle was smart enough to ask her before we finalized talking to her. So.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we waive the 15-day appointment period for Kylie Burke for the Human Resources Department.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
I,
Opposed, nays, ayes have it, thank you.
Thank you for all that cooperation. And then finally, I've just noted John Carlisle's reappointment to the Historic Commission.
Question, Maria Hanley for the
we,
Town clerk's office? We done both that one.
Did that one come in too?
yeah, it's in the back of the packet
It's
there.
in the packet, and the
Oh, it's
agenda.
not.
Oh, okay,
It's
yeah.
on the
Se-
side.
se-
Yes, no,
Senior
no,
records
yes,
clerk. We need
that's,
to-
there's another one, as we
Yeah.
know, we have two vacancies there. This will be the first person who will fill that position. And again, I think the clerk would appreciate the fact that we could waive the 15-day starting period for her as well.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we waive the 15-day appointment period for Maria Hanley in the town clerk's office.
Second.
Okay, questions? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nays, ayes have it. Thank you.
for catching that one, Margaret.
Good.
Yeah, so all kinds of new hires coming on, filling vacant positions. And a brief update on the two construction projects.
I'm sorry, did we vote on Ron?
Yeah, I think
I don't
that's
think you do
You
You
vote
don't,
on
it's
it.
a
Put it
just
up.
a-
your permission, but you probably want to announce it, though.
I thought I did.
Oh, okay, good. Just so he doesn't escape.
Yeah, I was just saying that I provided that for your information, John Carlisle,
Okay.
to the Historic
Thank you.
Commission. On the two projects for the lights at the two main athletic fields, as you know, there's a ZBA hearing tonight on the permit for Manchester Field. But the work is ongoing there, and it currently started about a week or so ago and continues on. As you know, that's not our project, it's being donated to the town via the acceptance of the gift that had previously come to the board. On Skilling's Field, as I mentioned to the board, there's a change order to the project there, which adds the athletic lights for the multi-purpose field. And the news is that the lights arrived at the end of last week, and they'll be installed a week from Monday. So those projects are moving forward as planned.
What's the timeline for installation on the lights at Skilling's?
A week from Monday.
And how long will it take
It
to?
probably will take until the middle of August before it'll be
Oh,
operational.
okay.
Install, Eversource has to be brought on site to be able to light it all up. All
Okay.
that probably takes us into August.
Oh, okay.
So those are the updates.
Okay, good. Any further questions for the town manager? Okay, matters from the audience? Is there anybody who has a matter they'd like to raise tonight that's not otherwise already on the agenda? Sir?
So I have no idea of the protocol.
It's all right. Have a seat, introduce yourself, and
Appreciate that, thank you. Just here.
either one, I think they both work.
Okay, great. Thanks for sitting and taking the time to meet with me. So my name is Ian Lyons. I'm a resident of Winchester. And what I was wanting to start the process on, because I say it that way because I think it's going to be complicated, is moving to have the Winchester Country Club's charter of organization revoked. So I'm not sure if the Board of Selectmen in the town of Winchester do that or not. I did shake Art's hand on his way out. He's legal. The easiest issue to point to, and I have a lot of issues to point to, but the easiest one to point to is Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 180, Section 27, which has to do with gambling. The Winchester Country Club has a tournament every year called the Abbott Tournament that's been going on for a long, long time. In the Abbott Tournament every year, the members that qualify for the tournament, plus members that may not be in the tournament, participate in what's called a Calcutta event, and they sit in the dining room. It's fully attended by the club general manager, by the club president, current and past presidents. It's fully attended by the golf professional, other members of the board, et cetera. So it's definitely in the eye of the administrative authority of the club. The issue is that the pool totals depends on what people bet, but generally speaking, people will bet between $200 and $2,000 per team. The number of teams in the tournament is generally around 64. So the pot tends to get up to around 30,000, and I think historically has gotten as high as 60,000. Also, members and guests, if they would like, they can purchase raffle tickets, and the raffle tickets are used to buy a portion of a team. So for example, you can spend $100 and get $100 in raffle tickets, keep the stubs, and put them into a golf bag. Those get drawn, and then those respective raffle tickets get you a third of the team that's been bid for. And then once the playdowns and the matches occur, there's prize monies which are awarded to the respective teams depending on how far they go. So those raffle tickets, can be worth several $100s to over $1,000. The Winchester Country Club is a member of the U.S. Golf Association. It has been since 1920. There's strict rules in the USGA rules with regards to gambling and Calcuttas. Calcuttas are specifically precluded. But despite that, the Winchester Country Club goes ahead and does that. The reason I come here and present this to the Board of Selectmen is if you read Massachusetts General Law, Title 22, Chapter 180, Section 27, the rough notes it reads as follows: any club where there's illegal gambling, the selectmen or aldermen where the club is organized shall give immediate notice to the state secretary, who upon notice thereof shall declare the charter of such club or organization void. That notice is then to go into a respective local newspaper, and that club will therefore be void and of no further effect. So I want to make that happen, and I also want to present other issues that I have with the club. I joined the club in 2008. There was 2 incidences which I can talk about. I paid a total of $60,000 in equity to get into the club. I took them to small claims court, at which time they terminated my membership, and they've kept the $60,000. So they've broken a multitude of laws. I've gone through the Massachusetts general laws in detail. I've also gone through the Massachusetts, it's the Code of Massachusetts regulations. If you read the bylaws of the Winchester Country Club, they'll say in there that they're a distinctly private club. And if you go, there was a Supreme Court ruling, I believe back in 1993, that had to do with Association of Clubs in New York, and how there was a city ordinance permitting distinctly private clubs. The issue being, because they're distinctly private and therefore under the Constitution, I believe it's the First Amendment, there's a right of association. In essence, you can be deemed to be a family type unit where you have your own type of governance. So the issue is, at what point does a club run over the barrier where it goes beyond meeting the criterion of having its own right to association and therefore immunity from outside influence, including the police and the courts. And there's a Code of Massachusetts regulation. It's 204 CMR 10.0 to 10.06, which gives specific guidance to when a club can be deemed to be a distinctly private club. So the Winchester Country Club has it in its bylaws that it's a distinctly private club, where in fact if you read the bylaws and plus know what I know and plus know what can easily be obtained, the club does not meet that threshold. For example, the maximum number of members is 200. The club has over 600 members, and within that, each member generally has a spouse and siblings who also have full privileges. So the number of people that frequent the club, arguably just on that measure, is north of 2,000. Then they have guest privileges for members, and they have multiples of guests. There's also language with regards to, do they have regular dining services? They've got multiple dining rooms that are open generally from 9 o'clock or 11 o'clock in the morning right through until 10 o'clock at night, serving through food to multiple venues. So there's 3 dining rooms plus snack bars, and they serve food to guests. The other issue is, does the club undertake business-related activities? You can hire the club out. They also have weddings where up to 250 people can be included. They also have invitational tournaments where I could invite a client of mine and bring him to the club in an invitational environment, knowing that there's going to be other business executives at that tournament where they can commingle. There's drinks served at bars in a clustered environment. So there's there's business dealings that can come out of that. Every one of those issues, plus there's more, strongly suggest that the Winchester Country Club is in fact not a distinctly private club, but in fact a place of, it's going so well here, open, public, it's a public location. They don't have the right to discriminate against anybody. So anyway, there's a bunch of issues with regards to Winchester Country Club that I want to, A, make the Board of Selectmen aware of. 2, I want to have action taken against the club with the end result that the club's charter of organization gets revoked.
So our usual protocol would be to listen to the matter and then take it up at a future meeting.
Okay.
What I might ask you, awful lot of information there, going to impose upon you and ask you to sort of either type that up or write it up in a form of, it could be a memo addressed to either me or to the town manager.
Sure.
And just send it in so that we can then give that to our town council and ask them to begin to sort through the issues and advise us on what actions we should or need to take.
The reason I didn't bring it, to be quite honest, the work that I've done and the memos and letters and everything else, it totals at least several inches thick. So,
Just a couple of pages would do, I think.
So I'll give you the
Just to get
boiled
started,
view.
I think,
Okay.
if a short summation of what do you think the critical issues are and what are the
Okay.
key references, we've scribbled some of those down here, but enough to get Mr. Krieger and his colleagues started and contact information for you so they could call up if they wanted to clarify or discuss some of the issues. Then we could ask them to give us a detailed opinion on this, what we can do.
okay, that'll be outstanding. And then Mr. Greensback, so I follow up with yourself, and then also Mr. Howard, I follow up with you? Okay, great.
Just, yeah, if you send the note in to us, it could be email or a letter memo, whichever is more convenient.
And there is a general email on the website.
Yeah, if you
Town
do-
manager at Winchester.us. All one word, town manager.
It's on there, right? I don't want to take everyone else's
Oh,
time.
no, sorry.
Okay, great.
Find it too. Or you can just drop a letter off the mail. too.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll do it. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much.
So again, Ian Lyons, appreciate your time. Thanks, bye-bye.
Mr. Lawrence.
Lance, can I just have a couple, 1 minute, on perhaps a somewhat lighter note? On behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, I just want to thank all the citizens who attended the garden tour a week or two ago. It was a gorgeous day again, and there were 10 gardens, private gardens, that were opened up to the public to visit. It was very financially beneficial to the Chamber, and my most important point is that those funds that we do raise go back into the Hanging Basket Fund. So many people in our town don't realize that the Chamber funds the hanging baskets and the white lights that hang around town, and it's not coming out of their taxes. It's coming from the money that the Chamber is able to raise from its membership and from these different events. And again, I thank everybody who attended it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, through you, is it possible, do you mind staying for a second, just procedurally to have some sort of acknowledgement and voices of gratitude on behalf of the board, not only for the chamber, but also for the garden tour and also these incredibly important amenities that are supported through the efforts that you just described. Everybody loves the hanging baskets and the lights. The flower baskets are absolutely gorgeous.
That'd be appreciated.
Yes, I think we've generated a whole stream of thank you notes to the chamber over the years.
One more won't
Certainly one more will do it. It's very much appreciated. Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Bob. See, a few minutes. I was hoping we don't have any of the interns from Saint-Germain-en-Laye here yet. I presume they were scheduled to come this evening. Did you?
They were.
Annette knew it, okay, so we'll hold off on that. We have a series of other appointments under business, under G2, so perhaps pick up some of those. At least the reappointments, I don't know if others are planning to come in. So we have an appointment for Peter Egelbrum. This is to the Cultural Council, a reappointment. If there are any comments, otherwise I'll take a motion to,
Mr. Chairman, I move that we appoint or reappoint Peter Engeldrum to the Cultural Council, your term to expire March 31st, 2021.
okay, seconded? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Good.
And I move that we appoint Madhavi Agarwal to also the Cultural Council, term to expire expire March 31st, 2021, and Annie Westland for a term to expire March 31st, 2020.
Second.
Patty, I don't know if either one of the new appointees were planning to come in this evening?
Before I retired, I reached out to these folks, but they never got back to me.
Okay, so we'll appoint them in absentia, okay? We have a second? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Group opposed, no, okay, the ayes have it.
Chairman, I move that we appoint Andrian LeBoeuf to the Design Review Committee for a term to expire July 31st, 2018.
Second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Chairman, I move that we appoint Alexander De Matteo to the Field Management Committee for a term to expire July 19th, 2021.
Second.
Seconded,
Oh,
comment or question? No. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Sorry. Was, yeah, I just saw that, 2018, is that,
2021, yeah.
so,
Adrian,
Chairman, I move that we reconsider the appointment of Andrian LeBoeuf, and the term actually expires July 31st, 2021, not 2018.
July 19th.
July 31st, 2021, not 2018. We're reconsidering the previous one. Andrian LeBoeuf to the Design Review.
Second.
so this is
I
to,
read it as 2018,
this is says.
it's 2021.
so July 30, 2021, okay.
Yeah.
On the reconsideration, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, good, okay, thank you. And then perhaps Council on Aging, take up the, was acceptance of the gift. I believe under G4.
Against the deed.
I'm sorry?
Yes, we got,
Against the deed. So the Council on Aging
This
kids,
is
yeah, as I mentioned,
This is the re- this
the
is
Cummings
the reciprocal.
Foundation extends the $20,000 to the Council on Aging each year to support the efforts of the traffic coordinator. So as I mentioned earlier, we'll switch that over to the COA side of the house. So we'll accept the donation to support that activity.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept a gift in the amount of $20,000 from the Cummings Foundation with the many thanks of this board. The gift to be directed to the Council of Aging.
Second.
Seconded, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Passed, okay. All right, Susan, is your solar presentation more than 15 minutes of discussion? Okay. We could, if you'd like to start now, I'll then have to announce a public hearing at 8:15 and then perhaps break if it's going to go on longer than that. Because we have 15 minutes, if you'd like to go up and start on item G, I've lost the G3. Okay.
I'm assuming we know how to make it a full screen.
So the board has in front of it
I'm logging in.
proposed solar panel array agreement that will locate three arrays on three locations, Winchester High School, it's an open school, and DPW facility. Originally, the committee and the town were looking at four locations, one of which would have been an indoor school, but along the way, we determined that the roof at the indoor school is probably in need of replacement sometime well before the term of this agreement could take place, probably within the next 5 years. And so it became a little bit impractical in that at least this particular provider would not commit to the idea of putting the panels on, taking them off in the event the town went ahead and did the capital project on the roof replacement. So we dropped that location from consideration. So we have the other three kind of teed up for consideration under the draft, pretty much final draft form, but not entirely final draft form of the document that you see in front of you. And Susan and the team can go over why it is. They think the potential of signing this agreement with solar energy development is kind of the recommended solar outcome. Susan in particular has been working on RFPs for solar at a variety of locations in town. Each time the RFPs have gone out in years past, the costs were much too high for the benefit returned. I would say that Susan and the committee thinks that this particular deal is more in line with something that benefits both sides, and much more in line with where the marketplace is. So, Susan, you want to kind of give a...
Yeah, let me just, before you begin, the agenda says a vote on it, but between the time we put the agenda together and tonight, got a half a dozen calls from Susan, the school committees, and others saying that there are still technical issues to be ironed out about how it was to be secured to the roof and whether the insurance, whether our current insurance carrier would accept it as is, and I
So
gather
it may
those,
not be
I gather those
right
are,
for a vote, yeah.
yeah, and then the lawyers are still working on the details on this, so I gather you're gonna meet with the EFPBC on Wednesday?
School
Correct.
committee tomorrow?
Or tomorrow?
No, EFPBC on Wednesday and then school committee after that.
Okay.
After that? Oh, okay.
And so be coming back to us for a final approval. So, although it says vote, I don't think we're intending to vote on it tonight, but it sounds like a good opportunity for, to get a pretty decent briefing from you folks on
Great, yeah.
how you got here and what the benefits are.
Yes,
So
thanks
if you
for
don't
making-
introduce,
Sure, I'm Susan McPhee. I'm the Energy Conservation Coordinator. This is Mark Sassy, who's on our Energy Management Committee, and also a pro in the solar field, so we're glad to have his expertise chiming in. And this is Walter Gray, who's here from Power Options.
thank you.
Susan, do you mind just giving a little bit more about your introduction? Like, is that affiliated with the town, for example, your position, or?
Yes, I've been working with Winchester for about actually 10 years now, doing energy conservation work, so anything having to do with saving energy, saving money through energy, anything that we can do to reduce our energy costs for the town.
Thank you for your service to the town.
So you've been working as a consultant and with the Energy Committee and the town manager on these
Correct.
issues, yeah.
Correct.
She takes the lead position on our green communities
Yeah.
grant applications. Typically, we get about $250,000 annually to be able to do energy savings.
Thank you for your
energy.
service to the town. Thank you for that more amplified introduction, because I think it's helpful, including for those watching on TV.
Thank you. Yeah, so to start out with a little bit of background in terms of this solar project, the approach that we're taking is a PPA, which stands for Power Purchase Agreement. And the reason that that's attractive for the town is because there's no money down. We're not putting any money into this, and yet we can still reap benefits from it. So we're looking for roofs in town that are new enough that we can put solar panels on the roofs, and it's like a lease, but instead of getting a payment for the lease, we're getting a reduced cost for electricity. Solect is the company that we're working with here, and that's through Power Options. Walter's here from Power Options, so he can fill in the details if I'm not covering them. So this is a commitment for 20 years. There are early buyout options along the way. The PPA model is attractive because in addition to no money down, the town is allowed to then monetize a tax deduction that a for-profit company can take advantage of. So that comes back to us in the form of that lower rate for electricity. In addition, there are state incentives, and that's what is putting us on a ticking time clock here. The current administration is in the midst of changing how solar is being incentivized at the state level. And we thought that the new regime would be in place by now, but it's been kicked down the road slightly, which is to our benefit. But it's still, the pressure is on us. The earlier we can get this across the finish line, the higher rate we're going to get from the state. The new system is called the SMART system. It's a series of tranches. So the first across the line will get more money from the state. Buckets fill up based on the size of arrays, and as those buckets fill up, the incentive goes down. So the longer we wait, the smaller the incentive is the bottom line. In terms of benefit to the town, the reason this is attractive is we have the no upfront costs, as I mentioned. It reduces our cost for electricity, so all the electricity produced we then buy from the PPA provider at a dramatically reduced rate. The savings of that reduced rate over the 20 years is close to $1.6 million in savings for the town. It also provides a stable rate, so where electricity rates, as we know, have gone up over time, we will have this amount of power at a fixed price. We have no maintenance responsibilities. All the O&M is paid for by Select. We've built in purchase options at years 7, 10, 15, and 20. So the price for the panels would go down if it is attractive. We can exercise that, but there's no obligation to exercise that. And then last but not least, it's clean, green electricity that we can point to our students and our residents. So the summary of the benefits is here. We've priced it conservatively with tranche 3, so as though we're in the third round of the buckets being filled. But because the start of this has been pushed off, we might make it into an earlier round, which would then reduce our costs further and increase our savings further. So we feel this is a very conservative estimate of the savings to the town. The savings could actually increase if we get in on tranche 1 or tranche 2. This is priced as tranche 3. So that's a very quick summary. Mark, what did I miss?
Do you have the prices for if we get in tranche 1 and 2?
We have estimates.
So just as a matter of introduction, I'm Walter Gray with Power Options. I'm an analyst and I manage solar programs. Power Options is a nonprofit. We're an energy buying cooperative, so we undertake competitive procurements on behalf of our nonprofit membership. Our membership consists of municipalities, housing authorities, state entities, schools, hospitals, any nonprofit. So we went out to competitive procurement for the solar program, and so that's what we're bringing to you. So I have a significant amount of insight into how Select prices these projects. So in order to be prepared, I did some analysis about the prices under Block 1. Generally, you'd save a couple cents. So PPA rate, we're assuming Block 3. So instead of 11 cents, we're looking at 9 cents for the DPW. We're looking at about 6 cents for Vincent Owens. And we're looking at about 4.5 for the high school. So that could be significant. The reason that they're priced under Block 3 is that it's a whole lot easier for a developer to come to you and say, hey, surprise, your price went down dramatically, than it is to come back and say, surprise, it's going to cost more. So there's a very real possibility we'll get into under Block 1, which is what we're crossing our fingers for, but the way they manage the queue for the incentives is by interconnection application. And that can only happen after the contract is signed. So the earlier we sign contracts, the better position we'll be in to save the most money.
So I guess the follow-up on Mariano's question, the bottom line would be aggregate savings, say 1.6 here. Is there a rough ballpark of what the Block 1 would be? Is that 1.7, 2, 2.7?
Could be a couple $100,000. So if we're looking at 1.6, 1.8-ish, and that's based on my calculations, which is very educated based on how Select prices projects, but would have to put an asterisk there that subject to all sorts of conditions and factors. So
this savings includes estimated escalation of EverSource or of non-solar costs, is that right?
Those were factored in. So
Yeah, there's a very small escalation because we're not on EverSource, we're on competitive bids.
Right.
So I think it's flat for the first 2 or 3 years and then a small escalation after that.
I'd just like to point out as well, my name is Mark Sassy. I'm a volunteer for the Energy Management Committee. I also do energy consulting for my day job. We did run some of the savings analysis for flat energy costs and even a slight reduction of energy future costs, and it still yielded a savings. So pretty nominal risk on the part of the savings analysis.
I think just what Finance Committee is going to want to see is what next, the next 3 years, like each year, just from a budgeting standpoint, right? Because they have to budget energy costs, right? So it'd be interesting to see what the year 1 savings.
how long are you locked in, Susan, for your competitive supply contract?
Our next supply contract comes up next year,
Okay.
but I think for this exercise, we had it flat for the next 2 or 3 years.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be a piece cake.
Am I allowed to ask a dumb question?
ahead of me, go ahead.
So the dumb questions by someone who's not in this field, but just kind of your average citizen, if you don't mind, and it might be helpful for anybody else who's interested in these topics, so I'll be super quick. So are there different types of actual solar array that are kind of like more efficient or like produce more energy than others? I'm just kind of curious, is that already kind of baked in, what kind?
I can answer that.
Sure.
Sure. So there are a couple of different, of course, there are a lot of different panels in the marketplace. Some are better than others. The leading brand that Select liked to use was LG for a long time. There's some solar panel tariffs which were recently put in place, which affect the price of solar panels in America. So they've shifted to a different model. It's all based on the cost curves, and they're trying to get the most bang for the buck. The panels that they've designed are optimal in terms of price and yield. You can, pay more and get more, but this is what Select worked with, and they're very motivated to get the cheapest price possible for you. So, you have a ton of choices. This is probably as good as it's going to get.
Okay. Another dumb question, if I may, Mr. Chair. So a lot of times people hear about how when they put solar panels on their home, which I had them, but that sometimes you actually not only get to defray your own energy costs, but also make money. So in this instance, are we sort of obviously there's only 3 buildings, so would the amount that's generated, the yield, I think your terminology is, again, forgive me for the dumb question,
no problem.
but would it actually supply energy for these 3 buildings and more? And then if more, then how much, or not quite these 3 buildings? Just, again, sorry for the dumb question, but just kind of
Sure.
just wanting to know a few more facts.
So the way we generally phrase it is whether or not we're exporting power to the grid. And so the way you're thinking about with home energy use is when you export a kilowatt hour, it serves to basically turn your meter back by 1 kilowatt hour. So you're basically selling those kilowatt hours back to the grid. In this case, we won't be exporting at all.
Okay, as far as the system, but how about these respective buildings? Would it sort of cover all or like a large part of the energy use?
I don't think they have the...
Like for example, the high school.
So for these particular buildings, it doesn't offset the entire amount of power. It's more than half off the top of my head. But these sizes were selected based on the SMART program offering. So as the size of the systems get larger, the amount of value through the program becomes less. So it was very tactical on the sizes to get the most return out of the projects for the town.
Okay, and then one last dumb question. So some of the roof lines kind of vary, like say for example with the high school. So do you kind of, when you approach a project like this, do you typically try to maximize as many panels per roof real estate, if you will, or is it more about their location with the kind of solar efficiency?
So generally you would want to maximize, and it's a cost benefit. Sometimes it's just, you could put more panels on, but based on the amount of insulation that they get, the amount of direct sunlight, it's not cost effective. On this one, as Mark said, it was a tactical approach. We sized it right at 250 kW AC, because when you go to 251 kW AC, the amount of incentives decreases. So this is the sweet spot.
And having said that, I'd add, so DPW, we're just maximizing it. We're going for every panel we can fit on that roof. At Vincent Owen, because there's the roof that is potentially buildable, we're not putting panels on that roof so that if we do build additional classrooms, it's ready to go. But the roofs above that and to the side of that are all pretty maxed out. At the high school, there is more space, but to Walter's point, it was a tactical decision that if you keep it to X size, you get more incentive, so we get a lower price for that. So there is additional roof space at the high school. We are limited on the gym roof because we renovated that building and we kept the gym because MSBA wanted a smaller gym. Anyway, so that is not an entirely brand new construction over there. So the gym roof, we're going to not go wall to wall on. It'll be a more finite amount, even though that's the biggest, most open roof.
Right.
So, for example, we won't be on A, B, or C wing because they're a big HVAC,
Right.
which cast shadows. So we're going for the roofs that don't have large protrusions on them at the high school. So it's over admin, it's over the auditorium, and it's over the cafeteria, and it's over the gym.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your patience. That was extremely illuminating, pun intended.
The insurance requirements, does that cover, where's the insurance once, 5 years down the line, something happens to the panels, or there's a fire, what insurance covers that?
My understanding, and this is something the school committee and the FPBC were going to talk to you, is that they were going to, I guess there were two questions. One was whether it would to be ballasted, basically weighted down to stay on the roof, or to be anchored into it. And then they were, I guess, I don't know what the options were and what the trade-offs were. Then they were going to go to the insurer and ask if there was any consideration of that. Would that affect the insurance cost of the school? So I don't think we know the answer, but that would, presumably by the 23rd or sooner, we'd have an answer to how it's to be secured and if there are any cost implications for that.
Well, we know upfront that it is planned to be a ballasted system. That's what's been proposed from the start. But I don't have any research.
Yeah,
on
the concern
insurance.
was apparently some of the screening around one of the HVAC units blew off in one of the storms and ripped up. I think that was bolted, I'm not positive, but it blew off, and they were concerned about the, if
He's not
would a ballasted unit survive too?
The panels won't blow off. They're rated for the wind zone that the specific building is in, and there's non-penetrating. They stack weights on it based on the engineered calculations for the racking system,
So this is a question for you guys to sort out with the FPBC and the school committee. They're basically concerned, will it be properly secured, and are there any insurance cost effects? And if the answer is no, and it can be insured, then that would be I presume that would report back to us, so.
Yep.
Okay. On the timing and the buybacks, 7, 10, 15, 20, what calculation do we make to determine if and when we should do that? I mean, you have basically bailout options, right?
Well, I'm struggling not to mention capital planning here. So the question would be valuing the system at that time and then seeing how the town wants to spend its resources. So as we approach the 7-year time, we would then take a fair market value, is this correct, Walter, of what the system is worth, and then see if that's how the town wants to spend its money at that stage. So the SMART program continues to pay. So at that point, the tax incentives would be behind us, which is why that's an attractive time for a buyout. But the SMART program would be continuing to send us checks for our productivity. So it would be interesting to do the math at that stage and see what fair market value is combined with those SMART incentives, and see if the town wants to make that investment. And then at 10 years is when SMART stops. So then we're talking about the productivity of the panels and do we want to own them. Is that correct? I think I've got that.
SMART's 20 years for
20 years,
this,
okay.
the system size. Within the contract, there will be a schedule of values for early termination and for system purchase. And basically those are calculated to make Select whole for their initial investment.
The balloon payment at the end.
Borrow money and build the system, and they need to make their margin. So that's the values that we scheduled in the contract. At any point, the 7, 10, 15, or 20, you can do an analysis of what's the system worth to you. It'd be very straightforward for value energy produced by the system, coupled with state incentives, subtract operations and maintenance and insurance. It's pretty straightforward, and you can make a calculation about whether it was financially a good way for you to spend your money.
What's the lifespan?
So the panels are warranted for 25 years. This is a 20-year contract. So one of the bullet points that Susan had up is what happens at the end of the 20-year lifespan. You can tell Select to come take down their system. They have to cover all that cost. Because they have to cover all that cost, you're in a very good position to buy the system for $1 or another nominal value, which we can't put in the contract due to tax treatment. But they have 25-year warranty, and there are no moving parts. They last a very long time. The inverters will go over the course of the contract, but Select has to come replace those. But year 20, you're in good shape for another little while.
About the efficacy of the panels over that period of time, I mean, do they diminish when you get closer to the end of the?
They degrade about 0.5% a year.
Okay.
Which is factored into the production estimates.
And so if we were looking at year 10 to do a buyout or a purchase, there would be a termination fee in addition to purchasing the panels as well?
So the contract has two tables,
Yeah.
one with early termination and one with buying the system. The difference is just Select's cost to come remove the system.
Oh, okay.
So early
you-
termination is higher because of the cost of removing them.
Exactly. They'd have to mobilize men and equipment and come take the panels down.
Okay, but it's not early termination and the purchase price, so it's just.
One or the other.
It's one or the other, okay.
Yeah, okay. Good, okay. Other questions from the board? If not, I guess the next step is to, I'm sorry, Mike?
Yeah, just had a question to, my only concern is it's a long contract at a time when the market itself is, technologically advancing very quickly. I don't know if if we're gonna get into a 20-year contract and all of a sudden, the panels next week are gonna be, twice as good, twice as cheap. I know solar panels haven't maybe advanced that quickly in the last decade or so, but I always feel like we're on the cusp of that big leap. And
Sure. So there are two considerations with that, and I think that's a very valid point. Technology does tend to have its rapid periods of advance. One is state incentive money, right? It's never getting richer than it is now.
Yeah.
And that's a big piece of the pie when you're considering what the PPA rate is. So if you looked at panels which were, for instance, double the efficiency, which is a big leap from a materials standpoint, but the incentive money wasn't there, you'd probably be worse off than you are now. The early smart blocks are very good incentives. The other consideration is that Select makes money based on selling the kilowatt hours. So
I'm sorry, selling to what?
selling the kilowatt hours.
Yeah.
So if there were a situation in which they could make more money by selling you more kilowatt hours, in a situation if, panel efficiency doubled and price is halved, Select would come to you just purely motivated by finance and say, we want to come replace all your panels. And you'd say, great. So there's a built-in mechanism to keep them honest.
That's going to be my next question is, in case it isn't already obvious, so what is their kind of incentive, or how do they profit? So it's that they, some of the kilowatt hours offset the Winchester energy costs, and the rest go to Select.
So Select makes all their money by selling 100% of the solar output of the system, which is going to be interconnected behind the meter. So for every kilowatt hour it produces, you're buying that from Select for 6.8 cents instead of buying it from the grid for 15 cents. So
all of it automatically goes to Select.
Well, yeah, so Select makes...
And then we're buying it back.
So it feeds directly into the building,
Right.
but there's a meter at the system.
Right.
So you'll get an invoice every month from Select based on the amount of kilowatt hours that it pushes through the meter into the building.
So we'll pay an energy bill to Select every month in addition to paying our normal energy bills. But it'll reduce our normal energy bills by that amount.
Because that's less, right?
Yes, because this is far less than what we're paying on our current contract and likely on any future contract.
Right.
But the other ways that they make their money is the federal tax deduction, and then the smart incentive payments. So they've got 3 income streams.
So they're reducing their capital costs.
They're funding all the capital costs. Right now, there's a 30% investment tax credit at the federal level. Big chunk of change. Nonprofits can't use it. Solution is to run it through a for-profit developer who can monetize the tax incentives, roll them into a cheaper PPA price for the nonprofit. It's also an accelerated depreciation schedule coupled. They take care of a big part of the capital costs, which is why we can get.
This is the contract, didn't read it all last week.
You didn't?
Confess. If they go belly up, are there backups to who gets to purchase, who gets to take over the contract? Are there provisions in there that protect us from the whole thing vaporizing at some point?
Sure. So generally what will happen is all the risk in a solar project is during the construction phase. So once the project is built and operating, it's a very valuable asset. So if something were to happen to Select and they had to liquidate, they would have line around the block for people to invest in buying the system. There's some risk if you really like Select, then if they went away, that would certainly be something to research and consider about who's buying it, who the system is being assigned.
If they filed bankruptcy, the town could presumably also option its buyback.
Yes, and anyone who assumes the contract or buys the contract would have to assume all the terms and conditions and obligations therein. So you'd still have your buyout schedule, and if you didn't
Okay.
like them, you could exercise that.
Okay.
Just one other question. You guys were putting these in a couple of the school buildings. What does it look like kind of coming into the building? Is there something visually we can see or the kids can see just from an educational perspective that, we're generating, X amount of solar energy at this point?
Yes, that's not included. It would be a matter of buying a TV and hooking it up to wireless. So what'll happen is when the system goes to commercial operation,
Yep.
and when it starts producing, you'll have a web login where you can log on and see what you're producing instantaneously and how much power it produced over the past 30 days or year, carbon offset, and it's really easy to just get that to display in the lobby. All the schools love doing that.
Okay.
YMCA's, that colleges, that kind
Another
of
dumb
stuff.
question, so when it's raining and a nor'easter's coming in or something, either raining or a nor'easter's coming in, so then you'll be able to sort of track, okay, we're not generating as much?
Yeah, I mean, if they're covered in snow, they're not producing. If it's cloudy,
They're a little
they
warm, right, they
still
kind of
are.
melt the snow a little?
They do, so they produce heat while they're generating electricity, so it does facilitate melting the snow more, but you just don't get a lot of production
Are
in those
these,
months.
is the design of these fairly flat, or does it depend on where they're located on the roof line, whether or not they're
It can depend, but generally they're angled at, I don't know, 15 degrees or so pretty flat.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to ask a question, maybe it was already answered, but are these panels electrically and physically standardized such that if you had to, you could go to an alternate vendor or source to replace them? That would include the inverters. I mean, they're not specialized custom components, are they?
I don't know enough detail to answer, I'm sorry.
But we wouldn't carry the risk on the infrastructure itself, right? So if there was an inverter went, that would be replaced at no cost.
Exactly, and
So
if it went down and the panels weren't producing, then Select wouldn't be making as much money. And they
Right.
need to keep them operating almost at 100% in order to make their financial targets for the project, so.
But they have to be available. That's the thing. I don't think any industry has gone belly up more than solar people. So,
It was a big market for them. There are a lot of these inverters and panels are in very wide use. So if one of the specific companies were to go under, and it would make financial sense for another company to engineer something that could be plugged into the whole system.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right, unless we have further questions, thank you very much, and, if you ask Chris or somebody to give me a call back after you meet with the EFPBC and they sort out the citing and the insurance questions, and then I think maybe a memo from you folks or the school committee on what their decision is on that, because I told, it's their buildings in the first instance, so I wanted to make sure they were in agreement. I'm sorry?
Except for DPW.
Except for DPW, but the schools, things like that. So if you'd maybe give us a memo and let us know the standing of their issues, and then we can bring it back up
And
on
how
the
quickly do
23rd.
we have to respond to this in order to get into the more desirable tranche?
Ooh, that's the $64,000 question.
Okay.
Earlier the better.
How many other communities have jumped on board to this already?
So this, nothing under the SMART program, I don't think. I thought you'd ask who else participated in the Power Option Small Solar Program. So we're doing projects with Medford, Milford, Millis, Grafton, Hopkinton, Haverhill, Sherborne, Lunenburg, and Fitchburg so far, as well as the North Middlesex Regional School District, Manchester, Essex, and Somerset, Berkeley.
And are some of those ground mounted or?
They're all rooftop,
They're
all
all rooftop.
ballasted,
Okay.
same deal. So if you want to take a look at them firsthand, we could definitely facilitate that. If you want to talk to anybody who's dealt with construction, as you know, school construction projects are a little tricky from a logistical standpoint, keeping everybody happy. So we'd be happy to facilitate any
Are any
references.
of those canopies?
No, we haven't done any
I
canopies
mean,
through
there's
this program.
there's additional incentives for canopies, and I know it's more expensive, but.
Right, so a lot of canopies now, if you have big wide open parking lots, would love to take a look at them. Under the early tranches of SMART, canopies look better than they ever have, especially if you can couple storage with them.
Did we look into Didn't we look into canopies in the high school parking lot?
We were looking at the high school and at Skillings. But Skillings, there's the question about the swim project.
Yeah.
So that kind of put us on pause there.
Okay.
But in terms of SMART and how fast, we would just like to act as rapidly as possible, because the earlier we're in, the earlier the bucket, the greater the incentive. So it pays for us to.
It'd be interesting if a canopy project at the high school would net a better rate than the DPW, especially from a visibility standpoint. We have a couple of EV charging stations there, so having it coupled with a canopy that is charging at the same time has a really nice visibility factor from.
Yeah, I did ask Select to take a look, and they didn't find any places that were totally, home runs, because we have a fair number of trees that are planted around. They're looking for just row upon row of open parking, and all of ours are 2 rows, maybe 3 rows.
It's tricky. They get expensive when they're like that. If you have any wide open parking lots, those are ideal. The rooftops are really the low hanging fruit. You got a really cheap PPA. What's that?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, yeah.
Right.
No, okay.
The SMART program has had a long tail process trying to establish and set the rates, so there is a pent-up demand in the market. So I think at this point, the team was going to take it as a phase 2 approach for the residual load and other locations in the town. So we're going to run with that idea.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for all the information too, it's very helpful.
Oh, of course. Thanks for the
Thank you
interest.
your hard work.
Okay.
Thank you.
Move on to the next. We have, let me open a hearing. We have 2 hearings tonight, both on traffic issues. I'd invite Beth Rudolph, if you'd like our town engineer to help and introduce those. One is to deal with Main Street at Highland Avenue, and the other is to deal with a stop sign on Nelson Street. So Beth, if you'd like to get set up, okay.
That's all right.
So while we're waiting, if people in the audience are interested in these issues, what I'll ask Beth to do is to outline for us the first. We'll take the Main Street at Highland Avenue proposal project first and talk about that. I'll ask her to describe it, board, if they want to ask questions, and then I'll open it for public comment. So if any of you would like to ask questions or put public comment in about it, raise your hand. Let me know. You can come up and be on WinCam for 5 minutes. Okay.
Somebody leave there.
I think that may be somebody's. They walked out without them. It may be Susan's.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I switched seats.
Okay. So Beth, if you'd introduce yourself.
Sure.
And yes.
Beth Rudolph, I'm the town engineer, and Kate Meeker from Tool Design Group. We're here to talk about the proposed improvements at the intersection of Main Street and Highland Ave. We started this project as one of our Complete Streets projects. And since that Complete Street prioritization plan was put together in 2016, there's been a real increase in the number of accidents we've had there. So we have accelerated this project to one of our higher priorities. So I'll let Kate kind of take over.
Yeah, you might want to. There's a couple of microphones. You might want to give one to Kate so she can be heard.
Sure. Thank you. So Main Street at Highland, this is, on the left-hand side is just an aerial view of the intersection. You can see it's very, the Y intersection. On the right-hand side is the street view of this picture. On Main Street, the speed limit driving northbound is 30 miles per hour, and southbound it's 35 miles an hour, and the 85th percentile speed that we captured using an ATR is 39 miles an hour, which is substantially over the 30 miles an hour and still even higher than 35 mile an hour. On Highland, the speed limit is 30, and the 85th percentile we captured is 41 in the northbound direction and 38 in the southbound direction, and vehicles were recorded upwards of 50 miles an hour. So as Beth alluded to, there's definitely speeding issues. This is just a graphic of what I just talked about.
And then the crash data, this is one of the highest crash locations in Winchester. There's been 16 crashes since 2013, 8 single vehicle crashes damaging the adjacent properties. And the roadway geometry and speed were noted as contributing factors. The pictures on the right are the homeowner that's kind of on the north corner of the intersection, yeah. They even put guardrail in, and then the guardrail's been hit,
Right, we
so-
put the guardrail in last September. I think they've replaced it 3 times
Yeah,
since we put it in.
So it's an issue. So the proposed design is to reconfigure the intersection geometry to reduce vehicle speeds as they're kind of coming around that Main Street bend. And then we'll also realign Marchant Road to intersect Main Street at a 90-degree angle, same with Highland Avenue. We'll also install ADA compliant ramps, sidewalks, and crosswalks. And the design vehicle used is a box truck, or SU-30, which is kind of one of the kind of types of trucks you see here. They have the smaller, FedEx type delivery trucks, not the large tractor trailers. Neither Marchant or Highland are, there are no trucks allowed actually.
Is Highland actually posted as a no truck?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Do we still have a sign out there, or is it long gone? I'm guessing it's long gone. Whacked and got run over, okay.
So we just wanted to show a couple screenshots here of the box truck. We ran, it's a software called AutoTurn, so it sort of simulates the truck. This is a truck coming onto Highland and Marchant Road, so they're driving northbound, taking a right, and also driving southbound and taking a left. And you can see the curb radii that we've selected means the design vehicle won't track over the curb, nor will it impede on, if a car was coming in the other direction. So it stays in its lane and it won't encroach on the curb.
So just point of information, so in a typical ambulance, like an EMT vehicle, would you consider that like an SU-30 box truck?
No.
Even if it is no trucks?
So an ambulance, yes, would be considered that, but a fire truck, we usually run a larger truck. And for fire trucks, I did not bring that along, unfortunately.
That wasn't my question.
But we usually, people pull over, so they would be allowed to use the entire intersection field. So those trucks can make these turns without going on the curb, but they would encroach into kind of oncoming traffic on Marchant and Highland. And this is the same graphic, but coming from the side streets onto Main Street. So again, no tracking over the curbs and staying within their lane.
So I'll just talk a little bit about the funding. I had applied for Complete Streets funding this spring. Unfortunately, we just found out that we did not get the money. And we were told that we shouldn't reapply in the fall because they're only giving money to communities who haven't already received money at this point. So I've put in a capital request for the construction and construction administration. It's about $150,000 all told is the estimate that we have, the preliminary estimate.
For both?
Yeah, so we really look at it as one project because Marchant and Highland come together. You kind of have to do them both as a package. So the intent, my request is to have that money come through in the spring, and then we would see sort of where the Eversource 115 line is coming through here. So we want to sequence it so that we didn't impact their construction.
Can I ask one question? So I'm just kind of curious, this is a beautiful presentation and it's so well thought out and it's so easy to understand. So thank you so much for all your time and effort. But just a quick question, when you were mentioning the 16 accidents, since I think you said 2013 or something, so typically are they coming, are they vehicles on Main Street going, would that be northbound? And so is it because of commandeering the curve there, or do you think that doesn't play a role? Is it because because cars are coming out of Highland and Marchant, or could you just?
No, I think it's mostly speed, and you can correct me because you kind of went through all the accidents. But it's a lot of speed, people traveling from the Medford side towards Sims Corner, not paying attention at that curve or just not navigating it appropriately, and yeah.
And so, so it's not so much people, like sort of collision, well, I guess there's some two-car collisions.
They're mostly, to be honest, they're mostly single car.
Like the 8-1, so it's more navigating the curve and going too fast than it is
Right.
necessarily these cars coming out of these secondary roads. It's not so much that.
It's rarely that somebody's pulling out of Highland Ave and gets, hit.
And so would, particularly the improvements proposed for Highland, would that affect the curve slightly?
Yeah, so I think what you
Keep the
see
car
from the
sort of
speed
in the
data is that people on Main Street can take that turn to Highland Ave currently easily going 40 miles an hour, right? I mean, you don't even have to hit the brake and you can turn right into Highland Ave, and that's a very dangerous, there's a crosswalk there,
Oh,
there's
okay, so the
a
accidents-
school.
Can I back up a second? So the
Yeah.
accidents, both the single car that you've tracked accidents, so they're not so much staying on Main Street, you're saying many of them are going off?
I don't know, I mean, either way, right?
I think they're going in the middle.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Right.
Then it's like when you come back from the airport in a taxi, they have no idea where to go.
Yeah, it's just
Like,
a lot.
It's a
you-
really
they
wide
have time,
open
but
intersection.
Somebody who's not familiar with the intersection gets there and
I'm
it's
just
like,
asking
where do
what
I
the
go?
data is showing.
Yeah, so they're coming around here and basically kind of losing control, right? As they're coming into this curve,
Yeah,
they're losing control and hitting, this is where that guardrail.
right, but in those instances, are they trying to go on Highland or stay on Main?
I understand they're trying to stay on Main.
Okay, so that's different than what.
or they can't decide.
Well, it's a two-pronged issue, right? It's the accident issue, and it's also the speed issue of people who are traveling from Maine onto Highlands.
Yeah. They don't have to
To
slow
be
down at
taking that corner at 40 miles an hour is
Yeah,
not.
maybe they're sort of using some of this width right
Oh,
there
totally.
between
Mhm.
Marchant and Highland, and so your proposed redesign would eliminate that, it looks like.
So now there'll be two, so where now Marchant kind of comes into Highlands, there'll be two separate curb cuts on Main Street.
Right, exactly, and then,
So it's in between, there'll be a new grass area.
The other thing that we've talked with Beth
grass
about,
area.
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
So
It's
the-
like too much pavement, so it's sort of.
There's too much
allowing
pavement.
people
Exactly.
To
This is
kind of
just
take the
kinda-
sweep, and
Exactly.
then it's
Yeah.
the curve.
Yep.
Okay.
Trying to
Yeah.
define
Yeah, I.
The lane a little bit, yeah.
so the other thing we've talked with Beth and the Traffic Advisory Committee about is on the 30-mile-an-hour roads, the main lines, is doing what the DCR has done, is basically having a center line and then marking, instead of having the fog line way over on the right curb, moving it just 10 feet out, so it visually narrows the travel lane.
Right, and maybe that could
And
be.
and it leaves
done-
it leaves a sort of a de facto bike shoulder, but it provides more guidance through that area. I guess the question, Kate, on the bump outs there and the island that's created between Marchant and Highland, might we look at some guardrail there to prevent people from rolling over that center island too? Or sliding across? I've watched people in the winter come up to that intersection and just slide sideways. In most cases.
Do you
they
mean
miss
on
the-
Main Street or on
between
Highlands?
between Marchant and Highland, at least.
In the proposed area or the way it is now?
The
Proposed area.
Yeah, so the question is, how do we landscape or address that, the areas that are in red, the bump outs, the pedestrian crossings? Yeah, to protect somebody who's either standing on the curbs or other, because it's still gonna be a long sweeping curve, and in the winter, I've watched people sort of slide their way around those. And something to look at.
Yeah, we can look at
Yeah,
whether,
we can,
You're
yep,
basically narrowing the road a little too, it looks like.
absolutely, yep.
And do we landscape the newly created island space there?
Yeah, I think that would be grass, and we could
Grass.
certainly look at planting some trees or something like
So
that.
while we're waiting for the money to come in from somewhere.
Okay.
As
If the board has any more comments, I'll open it up for
Yeah,
public.
as the chair was suggesting, would you propose, kind of bringing in the, what did you call that, the fog line?
Yeah.
Whatever the-
Yeah, so I know Jay has talked about it, it's just a matter of whether they want to do anything before Eversource gets out there and tears up the road. But certainly that's something that Jay could do as part of his
like
striping
maybe I
plan.
just remember when you all put in the no turn on red signs at like Bacon
Yeah.
and, Church for temporarily, and then that in and of itself seemed to really help. a lot.
Help, yep.
Okay. Do you have a question, Mike? I'm
I
sorry.
was just going to, I guess to your point, say, I mean, I think that just anecdotally, we've seen that just the width of these roads and how flat and kind of the sight line of it is really, and this, what contributes to the speed and to the accidents. I know that we've looked at kind of pulling the fog lines in, but I don't know if we would ever look at putting a bike barrier there for like a physical barrier on the street there to bring it in and to protect. I think a lot of people probably do use Main Street to bike, along that corridor there.
I believe Main Street has on-street parking before and after this intersection, so that's why we didn't propose any bike facilities, but,
Yeah, we've looked at it, we've looked at it with,
Like, if we, like they do in New York City, if you pull the parking space out to the, to create a lane, away
People
from
parking there get hit.
then, you've got a barrier there that's built in, and it really shrinks that road down.
yeah.
I think that's
Especially,
the problem.
especially with the tri-community bikeway,
Yeah.
starting over there on Bacon, right, which is nearby, so people might,
Yep.
it might get more use, for people to be able to use
Yeah.
the bikeway.
Can I ask a question? Is Children's Zone School right directly?
It's right across,
Yeah. okay.
yeah,
So
it's
we're
to the
actually
left
more-
of Meridian.
Yes, having more permit. Would you guys suggest if this gets done, which, I understand an issue with cost, but, and I'm not suggesting this, I'm just curious if you guys have thought of it, of possibly putting a crosswalk in to Meriden Road.
Yeah, so that's a paper street, that's not an actual,
But in any event, because there will be more on-street parking, right, with the new curbing? So-
yeah, so we've talked about that, and it's something we could certainly look at. I think we had always been concerned, with and the safety efforts always been concerned about the sight lines in this area, and not wanting to add a crossing there because we just didn't think it was a safe place. So I know that they looked at
I'm
it.
just thinking if there's more curbing, probably a lot of parents may just sort of logic, sort of use that area for some parking.
Sure.
And then some people may end up crossing the street, so just other ways to kind of like bring it in and make it more pedestrian friendly. I'm not saying you should do it, but just sort of.
Yeah, it's definitely something we talked about.
And then maybe call Children's Home School and see what they think. Or give them-
They have their own drop off,
I know, but I'm just saying if there's
plan
more
in the-
curbing, then there's likely gonna be
Sure.
more use, which is actually a good thing.
Yep.
Because right now it backs way up, so, way down the street, so.
So make public comments. If you'd like to come up to the table, if you would, please. And, it's hard to hear you that far back.
So that's my house, the yellow house.
So would you
Very
take a
excited.
seat and would you, this is, for formal public hearings, we ask if you, let us know your name.
Thank you, do you like it?
Yeah, that's all.
Let us, your name and address, and then what happens is you wind up in the archives forever. So.
Tamara Larson, 2 Marchant Road, Winchester. That's my house, my husband's car. I'm very excited that you're going to do something about this. There's nonstop accidents at all hours of the night. There's significant accidents. We've almost been hit twice on the way to school. And it's exactly as you're saying, people just start flying, the space is wide open, they drift to the right, and then they crash. Well, it's a couple of people have whipped around the corner too quickly and gone on the way up Highland as well. So my kids walk to school every day, to McCall and Children's Home, and
That's a really long street to cross for them.
it is. We go
Is it-
very quickly.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
that's a lot of real estate to cover.
It is, and it's terrifying
Yeah.
because
I can see that.
there's very little visibility as it's drawn
You've
out.
got like, almost like the width of like a lap of the track or something, just to cross, and it's all, the opening of a street.
Yeah.
Huh.
In Children's Own as well, most of the parents do cross, exactly as you said. The crosswalk is way down at North Gateway.
Right.
So the only place we can cross is here, or else you have to drag your 3-year-old half a block the wrong way and then drag them back the wrong
This might
way.
be another add to the project.
The Children's Home would love that,
Yeah.
if we could get something safe
I mean,
to
it
do
is a
that.
school. It is, it's a school zone, really.
It is very much so. My question is, you're drawing this, what exactly happens to all of our yards?
So I think you're, make sure I'm understanding correctly. And this is your house?
Yes.
Right here? Yeah, so this will be, where this is the existing curb, the new, this is your driveway, I think, right here. So your driveway will come out and it'll be, instead of kind of the big opening here, it'll come out and be more of a T intersection.
And just so people know, the red mark is the sidewalk.
The red is the proposed.
Just
So
proposed, yeah.
This is the sidewalk here, and a sidewalk here, and this area in here would be landscapes.
Excellent.
Grass, trees, that kind of thing. Does that answer your question?
It does.
But the,
That would be excellent. I hope we can do something.
Yeah, you'd have a little buffer.
It would be, unfortunately, potentially life-saving.
Right.
And I think it'll really improve the crossing on Highland Ave, because right now, that crosswalk is pushed back, and people take the turn before they can actually see people in that crosswalk, and so it's a very dangerous situation as it is today.
At that point, they're going back.
They're already going 40 miles an hour, yeah.
In the meantime, in the immediate, if we could get a stop sign at the end of Highland?
Yeah, you know, there was one there, I think it got taken out as part of like probably a crash, to be honest, yeah. Yep,
That would be very cheap and
absolutely,
immediate
yep.
impact.
we could mount one on an orange barrel, put it out in the middle of the intersection.
That would be wonderful. There's lots of different very cheap options.
Yeah, but yeah, there should definitely, the stop sign should be there.
So
Yep.
can you repeat, what would be the cost?
So the estimate right now is 150,000 with a contingency and construction admin. If we want to do,
Does that include the contingency or not?
that does include the contingency, yeah. So if we want to do other things like at a crosswalk, which we'd have to talk about, I would think we would want to do some sort of flashing beacon there, because it's a very, you know, people are traveling really very quickly on Main Street, so that would add cost to
Are
it.
we able to do that, given that it's a state road, or do we need to get approval?
Yeah, no, it's a state route, but it's a town, the town maintains control of this road, yep.
So, Beth and Kate, if you don't have a question, with the school being there, is it possible to post it at 20 miles an hour?
That's what I was
I
wondering.
don't think
too, even though
it's not a school,
If
it's,
I know it's not.
it's a daycare,
Right.
like, it's a Montessori school, I don't think it's
And
qualifies
it
as a
depends what
school zone.
ages of children
Yeah, but that's even more important.
It's not, no, I'm
not
not,
up to us.
it's just how it's written in the state.
Okay,
the mass
something to look at.
3 years old.
Yeah, but I believe it's, not gonna qualify, but we can look at that for sure.
Yeah, you could check, because a lot of private schools have the flashing light with the crosswalks. It's not just public schools, but I don't know if they.
No, I'm not saying public schools, it's usually the age of the children and the number, and they have to have direct access to a public street. There's just like a kind of checklist of things that needs to be.
We could check on it.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, no, definitely, I'll check.
Good. Other comments, public, sir? Yeah, come up and introduce yourself and,
Okay, comment, well, question first. Have the accidents...
For the record, if you just, your name and address. would be fine.
Henry Zulli,
Okay.
39 Main Street,
Good,
which is
welcome, thank you.
basically across from the school, a little ways up.
Okay,
Lived there about 35 years, so I've seen dozens and dozens of accidents.
Which side are you on?
I'm on the lower side here, the east side,
Okay.
up a little ways. And because I've seen that the fence and the chairs that they had there and all demolished many times. But have the accidents that we've seen been characterized by residents and non-residents?
No.
Yeah.
In other words, familiarity versus,
No, this is, we pull it from Mass DOT crash report.
okay, so be it. The cars, okay, cars will be coming out of, say, Highland Ave, and will have to take a left turn or a right turn. And I'm wondering if it might be the Route 2 syndrome, where they entering onto a fast road, if they get impatient, waiting for cars, because there can be lines of cars coming that way, and they shoot out, and then all the cars have to stop suddenly. that adds another element of danger, a different type of danger.
Are you saying that there might be more cars using this, or like, wouldn't it be the same number of cars that are?
No, the same number of cars, just at different times. The traffic varies, of course, but there are times, like rush hour, of course, where there are a lot of cars coming. And I just wonder where a car has to come out of Highland Ave, for instance, and also out of Marshall Road. And,
Hey, the good news today is if you're going toward Medford, coming down Highland, going toward Medford,
yeah,
it's such a wide open hunting ground there that you know you're in trouble if you don't slow down. And the angle is, it's very hard to crane your neck to the car.
it's very difficult. I use it
yeah.
all the time.
So the good news is people slow down coming out of Highland to look.
Yeah.
With the sort of T intersection there, I think it'll make it a little easier, I think Kate would say, to look left and right to see what's coming at you. I don't know if they're going to be any smarter about it, but,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. Just depending on the speed of the people coming down Main Street, and they do fly down the street a lot. Okay,
Thank you.
that's all.
Thank you for
Okay.
coming.
Yep.
Other comments, sir?
So, hey, I'm Willis Terry. We live 2 houses in on Highland Ave. And we have also seen, in 17 years here, a ton of accidents. And it seems like an increasing number in the last few years.
We believe it's because people are reading the Waze directions on their screen and not paying attention to the actual road.
So, first of all, highly support this. This looks great. I think this is a really good idea. It looks like it makes a lot of sense. One question I had is on lighting. Is there, one of the things about this intersection at night is it's really dark. And there's a dark fence in front of you.
Did the
And
telephone pole get taken out too at one of the collisions?
Yeah.
Was there a light?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah, it feels darker than it used to, but I haven't really analyzed it. The Krishnas who live on the corner put up Christmas lights on that fence now, after they had replaced it the 4th time in 2 years. Clearly there is a lighting issue, and I don't know if you're changing anything
that's
there.
a good point. It's not something we had looked at, but we will. Yep.
Yeah, and it might just be lines on the road, to be honest, or reflectors.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure I want an overhead light over my house.
Sure.
The other is, we've also separately been talking to Jay Gill about sidewalks up Highland Ave. And he's told us that I think, going to get them this summer. He's been great. Because we have a ton of people walking to Children's Zone.
Yeah, and there's no sidewalk up to Avril.
Yeah, there's no sidewalk up to Avril.
Existing for the.
Sorry, excuse me.
Well, he's talking.
Yeah. Yeah,
So it's kind of stopped?
So as soon as you turn on the Highland Ave, there's no sidewalks.
Okay.
Up
Once you
until
get
the next
past the
intersection.
driveway there.
Yeah, and so, there's an older lady across the street who's in a walker, and she's walking with her grandchildren up Highland Ave with cars going 40 miles an hour next to her. It's literally a death waiting to happen. I would encourage us to get a sidewalk there as soon as possible. Obviously, we'd like one, but I think it's really dangerous what's going on there.
A bad combination.
Yeah, and it's literally the running route for the town. Like everybody jogs down Highland Ave, turns right, and comes back around.
But I think we have the sidewalks are,
Yeah.
where are they in that? I'm sorry, you mentioned the sidewalks on Highland. Have we funded those, or are we still looking?
Yeah, so like you said, I know it's on Jay's list. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's
Yeah,
this
I think
summer, what the priority is.
He was
or-
on the list for the last 3 years. It got bumped, but he told me this year was going to happen. So I'm optimistic.
The other thing that Beth has been working with our newly formed traffic advisory committee.
Yeah.
And one of the things they were debating tonight, I don't know about, is looking at the whole of Highland Avenue as a whole corridor.
Right.
Because,
Yeah.
although this is a mess, people
Yeah.
whack the fence. We've had a lot of people, if you get past the lights at Mount Vernon,
Yeah.
people rocket off to the high school, not during the peak periods when there's a mile of traffic, but
Yeah.
we've had people pushing 50 or 60 miles an hour on that section too, so it's.
Yeah,
We're
there's-
gonna-
there's a whole bunch of
We're
things
sort of
that-
moving toward looking at the whole of the avenue.
I think the other thing I would encourage is think about bike lanes. There's a lot of bike traffic, particularly down Main Street, but also Highland. I see a lot of commuters every day. And honestly, almost nobody ever parked on Main Street or on Highland. And so getting rid of the parking and putting in a bike lane.
It turns out that you have to have, Kate, you have to have there's a fixed width that you have to qualify as a real bike lane.
Yeah,
And you can't have any parking.
okay.
Medford did that without realizing that they couldn't have any parking, I think. So what we've been talking about is painting the stripe out, so you leave a 10-foot travel lane on either side, but that leaves you then not necessarily a fully compliant bike lane, but it leaves you with one that looks like a bike lane or works like a bike
Yeah.
lane.
Yeah.
And Jay, we've been talking about doing that on several roads around the town. In this case, Eversource is going to dig it up, so
Okay.
the question is,
Yeah, you might want to wait until they're done digging.
although paint's relatively cheap, but.
Yeah, but I do see it is sort of noticeable.
It's a
You come
very,
from
very
Bedford,
heavily used-
there's a bike lane, and it stops as you get to
Stops.
Winchester. The road gets better, but
We've
the
noticed.
bike lane stops. Yeah, it would actually be, nice to continue that on, and I do see a lot of commuters going by there, so.
Yep.
So, bottom line, great idea.
Good.
I'm glad you're
Awesome.
doing this, but I would think about the lighting and I think about the bikes.
Sure.
And
Definitely.
hopefully the sidewalk gets done, because that
Good.
really is an accident.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you.
Good, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi.
Good evening.
Hi, I'm Caroline McCarthy, and I live on number 4 Marshall Road, right next to the Yellow House. And I just have a few questions. When people come down Highland, they go, if they're going left and then right, it kind of veers off into 2 lanes. And my question is, will it just now be one
Yes.
going left and right?
Yes.
And when we're coming out of Marchand, will there be any restrictions on us turning left or right?
No.
There'll be no restrictions, like they will.
No, I mean, if the neighborhood finds there's a problem,
Yeah, I know, it's just, that's where they come down Highland,
yeah.
and even though we were right away, because
So now you'll be completely separate.
right.
Yes.
So it'll be a lot narrower at the bottom of
Yes.
Highland.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so,
Yep.
yeah.
So Margent will come out onto Main Street and Highland will come out onto Main Street, and there'll be, I don't know,
You can make left,
30
right.
feet
It'd be
between the
left or
two.
right.
So
Oh,
that-
yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And just another, it's like, the bottom of Highland now, there's like no stop sign. And even at night, when they're coming, there was a few accidents where people were coming down Highland, and they just went right onto
Sure,
Main Street
yeah.
and just totally,
Without looking.
no, because you think it's a continuous road if you're a stranger. You
confusing,
don't
yeah.
have any idea. When you come down the bottom of Highland, it looks like Main Street, you're just merging into another street. So it is, and, there's been a few cars that are just coming up Main that just totally sideswiped.
Yep.
So it is a very dangerous intersection. I can't believe that there has been anybody, fatalities there. So that's another, so that would probably fix that one also. Just really to get people slow down coming down Highland,
Yeah.
that they're coming into a proper intersection.
Yeah, and so
Exactly,
this
and
should,
that's what
because
this-
the turn at the end will force
Yeah.
people to
Okay.
slow. Yeah.
Narrowing it, yeah, okay.
Yep.
All right.
Just a question, there's nobody cutting through Marchand Road to.
No, Marchand is
It's
just
at the
cul-de-sac.
end.
Cul-de-sac. I'm
It's
sorry,
a
I meant there's no
yeah.
reason to cut through, so
Yeah.
there would be no need for restrictions on time of day or anything.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's fine. Okay. That's
Good.
my
Thank
question. Oh, sure.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, last question, yes, sir.
John Calnan, 163 Main Street, and I'm not really commenting on the what the presentation is, but I want to speak strongly against something I just heard in regards to putting bike lanes possibly on Main Street and eliminating parking. I certainly don't want parking eliminated in front of my house.
Yeah, we're not, Medford put in a bike lane and apparently did not pay a lot of attention to the state rules that require you to eliminate the parking.
Yeah.
So what we have been doing instead is painting in what looks like a bike lane, but it's not officially called a bike lane, parking would still be allowed.
Okay. I just wanted to make that point.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Stacy Paula. I live at 5 Sergeant Road, about 5 or 6 houses up on Highland Avenue. I think this is fantastic. I think it reduces ambiguity. Thank you very much, thank you very much, thank you very much. Question. Are you considering putting in a light?
A traffic signal? No.
Thank you very much.
Okay, if there are no more questions from the public or statements, I'll close the public part of the session and ask the board if we have any other issues we want to talk about. Otherwise, I think, Beth, you'd like a positive vote from us to go ahead.
That'd be great. Yep.
Good, okay.
I was just kind of curious how it works with the new green space. If we then reach out to like a landscaper or like how that typically.
Yeah, so I think, that's something Jay would look at, whether somebody wanted to do like an adopt an island or that type of thing.
And that 150 includes the installation of the sidewalk?
Yes.
In that whole area?
Yep.
I mean, I think what Jay normally does, Jay would talk with the neighbors about how they want
Yeah.
the area treated, you know.
Yeah, like you did on Everett.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, in some
And that-
places,
that
the
turned out
residents,
nice.
the neighborhood residents kind of take over that area in terms of
And
landscape.
one of the issues we've seen come where is the lights sweep through curves. Some people like to have bushes planted as long as it's not restricting the view as you're coming out of Highland or coming out of Marchand, but it cuts the lights coming through your living room windows. Okay.
What's the next step as far as the sign? Do we need to do any additional engineering or design?
Yeah, so this was sort of the preliminary engineering. We wanted to come and make sure everybody was on board with the plan before we go forward, but we have enough money to, I think, take us through final engineering.
Okay, so
And
there's
then-
enough money to get to 100%
Yeah,
design?
yeah,
Okay,
and then
it would need
we
to
need the
go-
construction funding.
So then it would go to capital planning?
So I put in my request right now to request money for this at spring town meeting.
Okay, so it's already.
So as a follow-up to that question, for those of you who are interested in seeing this project funded, you should get the list of your town meeting members from your precinct, and particularly those, and any of those who might be on capital planning committee, the list of things. And you want to get on their ear regularly, because our budgets are very tight, and they have a whole series of, they have in the range of, what, $6 or $7 million worth of backlogged capital projects for the town. So, and this one, because of the accidents, I think it should be a fairly high priority.
Yeah, I would
But
hope so.
it will be greatly helpful if you were to sort of tell your precinct members and others to vote early and vote often on your part to do that, so.
You just go to the town website and look for, under the tab for town meeting members, and you can find your precinct, who they are, and it has an email address for each of them.
Helps a great deal if everybody in a precinct stands up and says, yes, we have to fund this project, so. Okay, if there are no further questions, Mariana, do you want to move a
Yeah, Mr.
motion?
Chairman, I'd like to thank our town engineer for this great preliminary design. And I think, I'm sorry, the firm is?
Tool Design Group.
Tool Design Group. I mean, we heard from all the neighbors and everybody very much in favor, and I think it solves a big problem that we have in town. So I move that we authorize the engineering department to continue to design and get to 100% design. Second.
Okay, further comments, otherwise, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nays, ayes have it, good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Kathy. Good, thank you all. We have one more hearing for Nelson Street. I don't know if there's anybody left from Nelson, good? Good. You know, we'll buy you coffee on the way out. So if, Beth, if you would bring that up, this is one I think that,
Mike, still gonna be behind you.
yeah. Yeah, so this is a smaller project, which I think we can implement without waiting for town meetings, so you don't have to call your town meeting members, but I think both our safety officer and several others have recommended this over time, so. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
Coming around the curve.
So let me, so I'll open the hearing for Nelson Street, and this is a stop sign request, so.
Just to orient everybody, this is, at the bottom is Winchester High School. To the far right would be Washington Street. To the north would be Swanton Street. So this is the neighborhood, basically between Swanton and the high school. This started because we had gotten a letter of concern from the school safety officer and the school resource officer at the high school, and from Sergeant Batchelor about the traffic pattern back here. It's confusing. There's basically Nelson Street is actually the main street that continues through here, but it's almost like 3 streets intersecting, and there's no traffic controls currently at this location. And this is an old site plan, but now the entrance and exit to the parking lot in the rear here comes out somewhere in this area as well. So there's a lot of vehicle traffic in that area, and there's not a lot of, there's no stop control to kind of tell who should go where. So we talked about at the TAC, now TRC, where we thought the stop sign should go, and we felt as a committee that it should go here where Nelson Street intersects with Spruce/Shore Road in this area, because we felt like that was probably the point where people had the least line of sight coming through there. So that's our recommendation, is to put the stop sign right there where that black line is shown across Nelson Street.
So board members, questions, issues?
And this is sort of a dumb question, but it would only be as you're coming from Nelson.
Yeah, so Nelson down to that intersection would be a stop sign, yeah. So you could still continue from Spruce along kind of that back road that follows the back of the high school property.
So it's almost like Spruce would continue.
Yeah, so but this is actually Nelson Street. It's a very confusing kind of.
Nobody's asked for a stop sign on Spruce.
Well, so again, the school resource officer just sort of asked for something to happen back here, and we thought, and again, I'm open to input from the neighborhood as to whether they agree or disagree with us, but we thought it made more sense to be here where Nelson Street comes out.
Maybe just put in one.
I'd like to hear from the neighbors as well, what they think. I mean, I am a little bit concerned about the stop sign being on what is naturally
the street.
The street.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, the right-of-way street, because somebody might just blow through it, and, you know, it can, somebody coming down Spruce Street, it says, well, now I have the right-of-way because there's a stop sign there. Somebody coming down Nelson just used to having the right-of-way, right, that can create a conflict. So
I think
I'd like to hear from the neighbors.
one of the reasons we decided to put it there was that we felt like people coming this way on Nelson Street that were turning left onto Spruce Street, that would stop that movement from being a problem. If you put it here, then you could still have a conflict with that turning movement.
And my second concern is there's no crosswalks there, and there's no curb cuts either.
No.
And we have, you know, students that are accessing the school. So I'm worried that there are no curb cuts if there's any handicapped students.
Absolutely. It's really unfortunate that it wasn't done as part of the high school project, that, you know, sidewalks and curb cuts back there. So that's something
There's zero sidewalks.
No, there's sidewalks, but there's no curb cut to get from basically like where the new back door is here. There's no curb cut to get across this area.
There's no ramp on the sidewalk to get back up on the sidewalk.
There's a place where it would make sense, but it doesn't actually currently exist. So, yeah, I can't remember if it's, anyway.
But when you say curb cut, you mean the ramp, the like ADA ramp?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
isn't that something the town would just routinely have on the list to put in?
Sure, that's something DPW could do, yep.
Yeah, I mean, irregardless, so maybe that would be a good suggestion anyway.
Yep.
Irregardless of the stop sign.
Or put the two of them together.
Could you estimate for us where the entrance is to the parking lot?
You know, I drive through here every morning, you would think, and I'm sure the neighborhood can tell me if I'm being incorrect, but I believe it's somewhere right in this area. It's not, it doesn't quite line up with where Nelson Street comes out.
And is that mostly faculty?
Does it? Yeah. So there's a gate there during school hours, so it's only teachers coming in and out during school hours, but after hours, that gate is open and anybody can come in and out that way.
And does that warrant consideration of a stop sign at Spruce also then, so that?
You know, we felt that we only needed this one here, but again, I'm open to input from the neighborhood, from the people who are in that area on a daily basis.
So, sounds like we have two people left for comments. I'll invite you both to, we need expert opinion, so you're it.
You go first.
Mike Elvin, 63 Nelson Street. I think it's fine to have a stop sign there, but I think you should also have one on Spruce Street. Nelson is a hill at that point, and it is kind of blind, and people do use the lower part of Nelson as if it is spruce, and they do kind of fly both ways down there. And there are a lot of kids crossing, especially right before school, coming down
So just slow it all
Nelson.
down.
So I think you slow it all down if you put stop signs on both.
Do you think crosswalks are too much, or?
I think it'd be great to have a crosswalk going from Nelson, yeah, because the kids have no way of getting from across, you know.
The Google Street View photo, there's literally somebody pushing a stroller, but there's no way for them to cross the street or to get the stroller up or down the ramp. So,
It's a problem for
you know,
sure.
because there's no ramp. So I
Yep.
think that we really need to ask
And
DPW.
And it's really blind when you're coming out Spruce because of the house, and there's usually cars parked near the corner there. It's really blind coming down Nelson, so.
Yeah.
If someone did blow through that stop sign, people thinking they have the right of way on Spruce, they'll run right into them.
True, so in other words, instead of just having one, have two.
Yeah, and there's a lot of bikes that come down this way.
Have you seen increased traffic there as well? I mean, would it have
Oh, I mean, it's become it's a major drop-off
So
for
yeah.
school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so.
Mostly during school drop-off times?
School drop-off times, yeah.
So you'd put one at the
So put one.
spruce right across there.
Put one there, and then
And-
that would
and
help people
there.
crossing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, both, you'd leave both in.
Did you consider that?
I think we felt like this would do the trick, but I'm not opposed to putting one on Spruce. Well, I think it's technically Shore Road. It's a very confusing street naming, but it is, yeah.
Would there be any negatives to
I don't-
putting?
I don't think
a
so.
stop sign there?
I don't think so. I mean, aside from the fact that
Worst case,
people.
we take it out.
Yeah, the only concern is that if people get used to, there not being anybody there at a stop sign, then they stop looking. That's kind of the biggest concern when you,
Put the sergeant out there.
when you
with the ticket.
over sign, but, thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Dole Galvin, 63 Nelson, and I'm pretty
same
much
house.
same house, and I'm home more than he is. So I see the traffic that comes through the high school, and I use the high school as a cut through from Skilling's, or whatever the road is, to Nelson. I slow down, but I can say that in the morning when the high school is getting dropped off, that there is crazy traffic because people are dropping their children off in cars on Spruce Street. We have people walking down Nelson. We have people coming up the lower part of Nelson, turning left onto Spruce to get up to Swanton. You know, like sort of, it's a cut-through neighborhood from Washington to Swanton Street. And there was, at the high school where you can go through the gate from the high school at any time. So there is a stop sign as you get across from the gate. You go through the gate, there is a stop sign, but you stop, but there is nothing other stopping us. And one morning at 7:30 in the morning, I saw extreme road rage from two people that did not have children dropping off at the high school. So it is a cut through.
I'm sorry, where's the current stop sign?
Current stop sign.
Coming out of the parking lot.
Oh, it's literally in the parking lot.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
okay.
new exit is pretty much there.
Yeah.
So you can go through, you stop, you get through the gate and you stop, and then you continue through. But it's not right, well, it's actually, it goes right there, so it's sort of here, I guess. But I would really recommend a stop there and there, because this traffic, they sort of do have the right of way to go.
And it's really four directional if people are using the parking lot too, because it's got from Spruce, Nelson, Extended Nelson, and the parking lot, so
Yeah,
it's like.
it's crazy. And then in the afternoon, you often have parents parked along Spruce, so you can't necessarily see if you're coming through. If you're on the lower end of Nelson and you live in that neighborhood, you don't know who's a parked car necessarily and who's going. And the curbs, when they redid the high school, the curbs are now much higher And I was a mom that had to push the stroller around town, and now there's no way that I could do it. My children are old enough that they don't need it, but it is a concern. And also, we have a lot of children, the lower part of of the street walks to Lincoln, the other part goes to Lynch, but everyone who in this neighborhood that goes to McCall walks through the high school. So this is a busy pedestrian sidewalk area between the hours of 7 and 8:30. So
Busy pedestrian.
Yeah. And not just, kids from the neighborhood, but also any kids that are in tech team at the high school and go to WinCam, right? They walk through that neighborhood to get to Swan Street.
They walk any of these streets up.
Yeah, so it's definitely a lot of pedestrians.
Do we Beth, should we also look at our no parking management on Spruce there near the intersection?
I wouldn't want to comment on that tonight. I don't know what's out there.
I want to make a note. Let's look at it and ask.
Yeah, and that was all changed as part of the resident parking that was done a few years ago.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, just whether people are parking probably illegally right down.
I don't think, and you guys can correct me, I don't think it's people parking for extended periods. It's more just drop off traffic.
It's the drop off at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But it's a large number of parents that are idly waiting for their kids, and then they pull out and go. And it's on Nelson, Spruce, and Lower Nelson, so it's just narrow.
So to sum up let me just think I understand, and then we can try for the motion. So the suggestions are that we put a stop sign at the end of Nelson southbound direction, put one at Spruce on the, basically to the west side of Nelson there, from the eastbound direction. And then we perhaps talk with Jay and the DPW, see whether they can put in a curb cut ramp at some point there.
And a crosswalk through.
Yeah,
Across Spruce Street?
Across Spruce Street, it sounds like, on the
west side of the intersection.
Nelson, yeah. And
I think there's where the entrance is right here, I think there's I think it might be a I have to look at it, but I think it made more sense with a mid-block crossing because of the entrance, the back entrance here, there's a walkway.
I mean, the only reason that I would say at the intersection is because there's going to be a stop sign protecting
That's true.
the crosswalk, right?
Do
we can take a look at where it makes sense.
At that location now, or is that not?
I don't think there's any crosswalks, because I remember when we went out there after that walkway was put in, I was, it makes, obviously, when you look at a plan, you don't notice it when you're standing right there, you're like, there's a walkway here, and there's no way to get across the street, it's like.
You would, the ramps and the walk, and a crosswalk would go closer to Nelson then.
Yeah, I think it would make sense to look at it with the Sergeant Bachelor and the school resource officer and see where they think it would make sense back there.
I mean, it is the high school, I don't know, maybe two.
I think two would impact the parking along here, because people do use that for pickup and drop off.
I agree with Mariana, if you're gonna have a stop sign and the ramp.
But the crosswalk and
same.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I mean, I guess we could figure out if the ramp would go mid-block.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it and see what we think makes the most sense for
But
people
once they
crossing
start
back there.
accelerating, well, I guess. Yeah, okay. So.
at this point, we need to close.
Yeah, I guess we close the public part of the hearing. Yep.
Would move that we instruct engineering and DPW to install a stop sign on, two stop signs at the intersection of Nelson Street and Spruce Street, one on Nelson Street southbound, the other one on Spruce Street eastbound, and to also evaluate where to place a crosswalk to cross across Spruce Street, including curb cut ramps for ADA.
Accessibility. Yeah.
Compliance.
Good, okay. Any other details you want to cover? Otherwise, we get a second?
Second.
Seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nays. Ayes have it. And that concludes that piece. So thank you all
Thank you
for sitting through a nice late evening.
Thank you for coming.
Let me see if we have then
Saint-Germain is
The,
not here.
the interns have never showed up, so we don't have to worry about introducing, although I did read
They
through
might come
their,
in, maybe they think it's next Monday.
yeah. So I did read through their resumes, all three of them sounded like pretty sharp, young.
Knowing Annette, she will want to bring them in.
Yeah,
if you-
so-
If the board
Thanks,
will
Ben.
allow it.
We have we just have the consent agendas at this point.
And we will-
Executive session.
Have unfinished business from earlier?
Sorry?
And the executive, we'll go back to executive.
Yeah, we'll finish that.
All right.
Okay, Bob.
Do the consent agenda.
Do we have any table consent or no? Okay. Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve one-day alcoholic beverage licenses for Susan Silva, July 14th, 2018 at the Sandburg House, for Archie McIntyre for Rydlock Farm Conservancy, August 2nd, 2018 at the 1827 Farm.
Seconds? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept a donation from the Anka Society to the Winchester Police Department in the amount of $1,470 for the purchase of 2 handheld radar units, and that we communicate to the Anka Society the thanks of this board and the town.
Police Department, okay. Seconded?
Yep.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And we already did the Cummins grant.
Yes, okay, that's duplicate. Okay, and then I would suggest that unless the board objects, that I did not, I must confess, spend the 4th of July week reading the minutes, and so I would suggest we put those off and bring those back up on the 23rd. If you have corrections, perhaps do a track changes version, send them into Patty, and she'll collate them, and then we can approve them on the 23rd. The new Patty.
Patty with a Y.
We can Patty, but you can load up Patty with an I too, so, okay. All right, is there any other information on the open session that we want to bring up or deal with? Any matters that missing? Otherwise, I will then ask for roll call vote
Mr. Chairman, I
to go
move
back to
that
the
we-
recessed,
That we re-enter executive session for pursuant to the general laws, chapter 30, section 21A2, personnel contract negotiations, to return to public session solely for the purpose of adjournment.
okay, do we have a second? Okay. Roll call vote, Mrs. Welsh?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, okay. 4-0, 1 absent, okay, thank you, we'll take a